Bueno, aprendí un poco del Popol Vuh en la escuela, que era el libro sagrado de los mayas, escrito en quiché, que nos relata cómo fue la evolución que ellos fueron criando para enseñarnos cómo podían ir evolucionando los seres.
Popol Vuh talks a lot about how there's this journey, and in this journey with these twins, there's a lot of different themes. There's themes of evolution, there's themes of sickness, there's themes of family, there's themes of society. And I feel like the Popol Vuh, in a way, is not just a creation story about Earth, but a creation story about society as a whole, because it talks about how people are overcoming these things.
I think the most impressionable part of the story was the gods, when they were basically trying to set up a human race, but they were unsatisfied with almost every attempt that they did. Because again, it just relates back to the way that I was raised to grow up, you know, no matter what failures you may go through, to keep trying and keep pushing till you get what you want.
Para mí significa el Popol Vuh es una historia de mis antepasados. Me siento orgullosa de saber que tengo orígenes mayas. Es como una riqueza, ¿entiendes?
I first encountered the Popol Vuh in school when I was a very young kid in Guatemala. Our history teacher was teaching about the Popol Vuh legend. So I've known the story since I was a child.
Nosotros todos aprendíamos del Popol Vuh a través de las clases de historia que nos daban. Algunas cosas que me recuerdo es cómo fueron ellos empezando a criar a los hombres, ¿no? Para evolucionar, ¿no? Que los hicieron de barro y a veces les parecían como menos inteligentes o súper inteligentes, ¿no? Y fueron evolucionando y tratando de hacerlos de diferentes modos. Y cómo se podían reproducir ellos y no hablaban, no pensaban ni nada.
Cuando yo estuve en mi segundo año y aprendí mucho de los mayas, me gustaba mucho el tema y sentía como que yo estaba adentro del libro y quería hacer todo lo que ellos hacían, ¿entiendes? Como los murales, quería estar en las pirámides, me sentía como que estaba dentro de la pirámide, quería saber muchas cosas de ellos. Era hermoso saber todo lo que tenía y mi historia.
My mother is from Guatemala. She originally migrated here 30 years ago. So I didn't learn about it until about a couple months ago. But when I did do my research on it, it brought a lot of my growing up situations into perspective. And the reasons of why my mom raised me the way that she did, to be a strong, independent person and to never give up on myself and, you know, strive for my hard work.
The Popol Vuh story, you know, talks about resilience, struggles, things that we already do in our daily lives. And one of the things that stands up to me is how we just have to keep trying certain things. You know, some things may not click at first, or they may not be the way we want them to be, but that doesn't mean that we have to give up. That just means we have to figure out another way.
From my experience, I was not born and raised in Guatemala, the more closer to the homeland of the Popol Vuh, where this origin story came from. To me, I take it purely as just like, not necessarily a code to live by, but like certain things to keep in mind in your daily life. There was mentions of like some certain sicknesses, they would kill you if you just didn't do certain things. I take it as if you don't work hard, you'll almost fizzle out, or it will lead to your death, or it will lead to your downfall in some way.
Me conecto mucho porque los antepasados me dicen que pasó lo mismo que está pasando en este mundo. Siempre van a haber envidias, siempre no nos vamos a llevar bien con todos y tenemos que ser y tratar de ser mejores.
There's many comparisons that we can make with today's world with the Popol Vuh. All of us as human beings, whether we're from the Guatemalan culture or different cultures within, you know, the world, that we all come together and kind of create one where it still relates back to our origin as a person, but it also reincarnates a different story. I do think that stories can help me relate back into like my Mayan culture because it tells a different side. It tells you the origin of Guatemala, you know, and how our community has grown from then to now. I love going back into stories and reading people's visions and what they were going through back then.
Yo pienso que sí podemos aprender bastante porque aunque no los tenemos a ellos aquí, pero tenemos los relatos y el libro, ¿verdad? Para poder educarnos y aprender mucho más de ellos. Es que también hay unas cosas que realmente lo dejan sorprendido, ¿no? Como los grandes edificios que ellos crearon. Los templos sagrados que ellos tenían enormes en medio del bosque, pues. Yo misma me pregunto, ¿cómo harían? ¿Cómo hicieron? ¿Cómo llevaron todo eso ahí? No tengo idea, ¿no? Yo siempre me he sentido conectada con la descendencia maya. Siempre he estado muy orgullosa de eso.
There's many different parts where it's the gods and their creations, and sometimes they're not happy with their creations. And to me, that is almost like somebody not being happy with their work, or somebody not being happy with the way that their life is going. And this feeling of empowerment that I got when I was reading this, it's almost like you can try many, many times. And sometimes you're not gonna be satisfied, but that's just life. And it's not the whole point that you're dissatisfied and that's it. It's you're dissatisfied, okay, but what can you do better?
When people walk into the museum, I want them to be able to place themselves in the story. I want them to look at the exhibit and I want them to feel the noises that volcanoes make, the sound of, you know, the rivers.
Tenemos antepasados y tenemos una belleza enorme. Tenemos colores y figuras y tenemos tantas cosas que podemos mostrarle al mundo que venimos de un país lleno de riqueza.
It's all about community work. When we sit down and we brainstorm about the ideas and we talk about the story and we talk about, you know, what the space is going to look like, and we have a very young generation, you know, at the table, and then we have the older generation, and then I'm in the middle somehow. We have the TMA, you know, staff, and we just come together with this unique understanding that it's a story that needs to be told, and we're all there, and it almost feels like we're in the story, you know, bringing the pieces together, and it's just a very unique collaboration.
I think the main thing I would like people to take away is something that I learned very recently about the Popol Vuh, and that it's written in the present tense because the world is still being created. And I think that what's most important is that people realize we may not all be blood relatives, but we're all family. And so try to make the most of it.